Our skin has specialized cells called sensory receptors that detect sensations related to touch. These receptors are further categorized to differentiate between different types of touch, but we will talk about specific receptors a bit later. These receptors are responsible for converting mechanical energy of different touch sensations into electrical impulses that our body can understand. These impulses travel through the nerves in our peripheral nervous system, through the spinal cord until they finally reach the brain. Once the signal reaches the brain, it will travel to the primary somatosensory cortex. But how does the brain know which part of the body the signal is actually coming from? Well, this cortex has a distorted map of the human body, called a somatotopic map, or a homunculus. This map is depicted in the grooves of the brain, and it overrepresents the most sensitive areas of our bodies, like our hands and our lips, because these areas are densely packed with receptors, meaning the brain needs to allocate more resources to interpreting signals from these areas. Our sensory system also needs to differentiate between mechanosensation and pain or temperature. Mechanosensation describes light touch, pressure, and vibration, and it allows us to understand the shape and texture of objects, as well as the forces acting on our body that put pressure on our skin. Meissner corpuscles and Merkel discs are mechanoreceptors in the upper layers of the skin, responsible for sensing light touch, like if you were rubbing your fingers together. Ruffini's endings and Pacinian corpuscles sense pressure applied to the skin, and they are found in the lower layers of the skin. Now, a specific collection of mechanoreceptors are responsible for proprioception, which is a term describing the perception of the movement and position of our body. Proprioceptors help us create a mental image of ourselves in our brain as we move and interact with our world. Golgi tendon organs are proprioceptors in our tendons that sense the force generated by different movements of our muscles. Muscle spindles are proprioceptors in our muscles that report back the length of the muscle as it moves. Additionally, in the upper layers of our skin, we have sensory receptors that respond to pain, called nociceptors or free nerve endings. Nociceptors respond to chemical stimuli, like toxins, thermal stimuli, like burning your hand, and mechanical stimuli, like bruises and wounds. Nociceptors are even sensitive to the chemicals in spicy food. But how does the body actually interpret different types of pain? Well, our nociceptors are divided into two main categories, A delta fibers and C fibers. A delta fibers perceive immediate sharp pains, while C fibers produce dull, aching pains. These fibers are neurons, which are the cells of the nervous system that transmit electrical impulses. A neuron receives a chemical message at its dendrite, which is then converted into an electrical impulse that travels down the axon. The message will then cross a synapse or gap to reach another neuron. And electrical impulses are much faster when the axons are covered with myelin, which serves as a source of insulation for the neuron. C fibers are unmyelinated, which means that they will send sensory signals very slowly, thus producing a slow, dull pain. A delta fibers, however, are myelinated, explaining why they produce sharp, fast pains. To review, our skin contains different sensory receptors that receive signals when we touch. These signals will travel from the nerves in our peripheral nervous system to the primary somatosensory cortex of the brain, which contains a distorted map of the human body. The brain will then interpret and process these sensory signals in order to understand the world around us.